A fully automatic robot dentist performs the world's first human procedure. This is a patient receiving surgery from an AI-powered dentist. I'm actually going to go ahead and play a little video here. One of the first steps the AI-powered dentist does is it maps your entire mouth with a new and, of course, proprietary and expensive scanning technique that helps identify cavities and regions of concern, which are these little black spots on the teeth. So the article says, nightmare fuel, maybe, but it's a historic moment for the dental profession. An AI-controlled autonomous robot does a procedure on the first time, about 8 times faster than a human dentist could do it. This guy got a cavity patched. It was supposed to take 2 hours. The AI dentist did it in 15 minutes. And since they scan your mouth, you don't have to do harmful X-ray radiation. The human dentist is there to oversee, and the machine's first specialty is preparing a tooth for a dental crown. Here is a video of the machine actually doing exactly that. I like how it moves back and forth like a CNC machine or a 3D printer. And this is a little bit grosser than what we normally have here on the channel, but it's still fascinating to see. You can see a human hand coming in just a second there to check on things and make sure it's fine. I guess it's not left by itself for this first procedure. Still extremely impressive. It also says that a dry run testing on moving humans, as in people that fidget and squirm and can't sit still and freak out, have all been very successful, and it works in even the most movement heavy conditions. So I think this is very cool. This is a proper use of AI. I'm scared of AI. I worry about its hallucinations and its problems and its limitations, but if it can help the majority of people do a 2-hour dental surgery in 15 minutes, I think that's fantastic. That saves a lot of time and pain and human suffering. This is a very expensive device. It's very experimental. It'll be a very long time before you go to the dentist and lay down and let one of these things work on you. But it's really cool that we have it. It's built, it exists, and it's a thing. And in the near future, maybe dental surgery will be more like going and visiting a CNC machine, which, God, the future is so weird. According to TechSpot, artificial intelligence can now see what's on your computer screen by reading nearby HDMI electromagnetic radiation. And researchers are saying this technique is already being used in the wild. To simplify, it's not AI is scanning your HDMI cable when it's plugged into something. It's if somebody puts, say, a spy device, and I'm using a calculator for that, nearby the HDMI, it can actually scan the leaking radiation from the ports and the connectors and see what is on your screen. It's actually pretty similar to how people used to pick up TV and radio signals back in the day. And this came from Uruguay's University of the Republic and says that their AI-powered cable tapping method is good enough that these attacks are likely already happening, which is absolutely nuts to me. They talk about this in the analog era. You could intercept video signals between devices or through the airwaves, but the data that goes through HDMI cables is much more complex. However, these ports still leak some degree of radiation. So what the scientists decided to do is get something that can scan and absorb the radiation. That's easy enough to do. And then there's a little combination of their own algorithm to sort out some noise and an AI technique to try to reconstruct text pilfered from HDMI signals, and they get around 70% accuracy. So in any given scan or situation, there's a 70% chance the breacher or hacker could see what is on this screen right now. And that potentially means it's easy for hackers to monitor things like password entries, financial data, or even encrypted communications, which is very scary. So in order to pull this off in the real world, what they would need to do is plant a discrete signal capturing device inside the target building, i.e. relatively close to the machine, or maybe hang by with a big radio antenna strong enough to grab the leaked HDMI radiation as it happens. I don't know what's going to happen if you're like me and you've got 2 monitors and a PlayStation and another TV and you got like 5 HDMI devices going on all at once. But the point is the technology is very real. That hackers or spies or government ninjas can see what you're doing based solely on the electromagnetic radiation that leaks out of the HDMI port that you don't control at all. You could put additional shielding on it maybe, but that seems a little weird. And well, when an article hits public like this, people that never would have had this idea suddenly realize it's possible, and all the bad people in the world are going to rush and try to replicate this. So in the future, HDMI is soon going to be a security weak point. Using the term artificial intelligence in product descriptions actually reduces purchase intentions, at least according to a survey by Washington State University, where they polled 1,000 adults in the United States to kind of get their opinion on AI advertising and if it's effective, if this is something that people want. And what they found doesn't surprise me at all. If the product says artificial intelligence, people are actually much more likely to avoid it. So let's jump into the details down here. This came from the Journal of Hospitality and Marketing Management at Washington State University. 1,000 adults polled. Couldn't read the original study because it's behind a paywall. Yay, science. So I get the summarized version over here. But what they showed is that products described as using artificial intelligence were less popular. According to their study, let's find some more details. And they determined the correlation is because when AI is mentioned, it tends to lower emotional trust, which in turn decreases purchase intentions. And they found that an emotional trust plays a critical role in how consumers perceive AI-powered products, and that's absolutely true. This is known as brand preference, brand loyalty. Even though we like to think we're perfectly logical beings, we do ascribe emotions to certain brands, to certain features, to certain products. For example, for TVs, if it says motion smoothing on it, I don't want to buy it because I don't like that feature, even if I can turn it off. And the way they ran this experiment is they put questions and descriptions across a diverse series of products and service categories. For example, they had smart TVs that had identical descriptions and marketing, except one of them had the term artificial intelligence and one did not. And the group that saw AI included in the product description indicated that they were much less likely to purchase the television. And this effect is magnified when we're talking about high-risk products such as medical devices, financial services, expensive electronics, things where failure really isn't an option. And what they found is that at least currently, people fundamentally do not trust AI in their products, and they don't see it as a selling point. They actually see it as a genuine detriment, which I agree with. If somebody tried to sell me an AI-powered smart toothbrush, I would be less likely to buy that than just a regular old dumb toothbrush, even if they were the same price. Researchers have engineered brain-infecting parasites into living drug delivery systems to get across the blood-brain barrier. So for the first time in a very long time, we have parasites doing good. And no, I'm not just talking about venom here. Rather, these parasites are actually curing diseases. What they modified was the extremely common Toxoplasma gondii. This is often associated with cats because it can only reproduce inside of cats, but it can infect other mammals. What's interesting about this particular parasite is that most of the time it's mild or benign. It doesn't cause major problems unless somebody is immunocompromised, in which case it can be quite nasty. And when it enters a host that isn't a cat, it makes all of its hosts less fearful of felines, even to the point where hyena cubs that are infected by this behave more boldly toward lions. Now, what's interesting about this particular drug is that it will actually cross the blood-brain barrier in order to deliver more medicine. And the blood-brain barrier, as the article points out, is a protective layer that limits which molecules can access our gray matter, which is important. It's very important for protecting the brain, but as they point out, it also makes it very hard when you need to deliver specific medications to the brain because it's designed to keep things out. Well, since these parasites can cross that blood-brain barrier, they've evolved to do that. What we decided to do is modify the parasites, and these parasites use 3 different protein secretion systems. There's a lot of very technical stuff in here, but basically what they've done is modified it so that the Toxoplasma gondii make what's called a fusion protein, which is essentially a parasitic protein stitched with the therapeutic protein that treats a very specific brain disorder, which is what they tested in this particular test, thus turning the parasite into a living, moving miniature drug factory. As it swims around your brain, it's constantly producing the proteins that you need to treat diseases. Now, of course, we know Venom, he eats a lot of protein, not just people, but I mean, you don't get those. And it managed to do so successfully in a post-operative procedure because you have to remove the brain that they did on rats. They discovered that the Toxoplasma parasites actually delivered the essential proteins to the brain, whereas traditional drugs and therapies would not. So right now, this is just designed to treat Rett syndrome, which is a relatively rare type of brain disease. But the mechanics behind it, scientists are hoping can be used to treat a whole bunch of different diseases in the future, because you can just engineer the proteins to, not the proteins, the parasites to deliver whatever proteins you need into the brain.